Welcome to a slapshot edition of the Russian Rulers Podcast. Today's episode, The Not-So-Merry Wives of Ivan the Terrible. Anastasia Romanovna Zakharina Yurieva was Ivan IV's first wife, and according to most historical records, his most beloved. A few listeners have wondered about my pronunciation of her name. Should it be Anastasia or Anastasia? I am going to go with the pronunciation as it likely would have been in her time, and not the Anglicanized version made popular by the Disney movie on the supposed living daughter of Nicholas II. But don't get me started on that piece of fiction. I'll take up that subject in the future. Anastasia married Ivan on February 3, 1547, and stayed with him, comforting his troubled mind and being a moderating influence until her death on August 7, 1560. Her death marked a turning point in Ivan's life, as we've discussed in our regular podcast. Ivan believed that she was poisoned, and there is forensic evidence that she was, as her hair was to have high traces of mercury. This toxic metal, though, was used medicinally and may have been used to treat her illness, which was likely to have been cancer. Anastasia did bear Ivan 6 children, but 4 died in infancy. One son, Ivan, was later murdered by his father, leaving the feeble-minded Fyodor to ascend to the throne on Ivan's death. Anastasia's brother Nikita was the grandfather of Michael I, the first Romanov Tsar. 1 year and 2 weeks after Anastasia's death, Ivan married Korchnia Temrukovna, the daughter of a Muslim prince. She was later baptized as Maria. Ivan was smitten by her beauty, but things deteriorated between them, as she was a cruel and vindictive woman, as well as being totally illiterate, which was quite the opposite of the well-educated Ivan. She gave birth to one son, Vasily, who died in infancy. Their marriage lasted just over 8 years, when Maria died under suspicious circumstances on September 1, 1569. Many suspect Ivan as her killer, although he had many people tortured and executed on suspicion of murdering her. 2 years later, Ivan chose Marfa Vasilyevna Sobakina to be his next wife. She suspiciously fell ill before the wedding, but they still went through the ceremony, and on October 28, 1571, they were wed. Only 16 days later, though, she died. Ivan, now in the grip of full-blown paranoia, went on a full-scale murderous rampage, killing anyone he suspected of being involved in her death, whether real or imaginary. He even had the brother of his previous wife, Maria, impaled. At this point, Ivan ran into a roadblock of sorts, as the laws of the Russian Orthodox Church did not allow more than 3 marriages. According to the Church, the first marriage is law, the second an extraordinary concession, the third is a violation of the law, and the fourth is an impiety, a state similar to that of animals. He argued, though, that his marriage to Marfa was not consummated, so it shouldn't count. His meeting with the church leaders convinced them that he should be allowed to marry, which he did on April 29, 1572. Within 2 years, though, he grew tired of his obviously sterile wife and had her sent to the Vedensky Tikvinsky monastery in 1574. In 1575, now not even caring about church sanctions, Ivan married his 5th wife, Anna Vasilykova. Almost nothing is known about her, except there is a belief that she met a violent death in either 1576 or 1577. Ivan's 6th wife, Vasilisa Melitinieva, married the Tsar in 1579. The marriage this time only lasted a few months, as she was caught having an affair with one Prince Devletev, whom Ivan had impaled. Her punishment was death as well, as he had her buried alive in a cloister. Wife number 7, Maria Dolgoruki, descendant of Prince Dolgoruki and Vsevolod III, made the same mistake as Vasilisa, as she had an affair after marrying the Tsar in 1580. Ivan had her drowned soon after the marriage. Now Ivan's last wife, and the only one to outlive him, was Maria Fedorovna Nagaya, Their marriage lasted 3 years, ending with Ivan's death in 1584. She bore him one son, Dmitri, whose mysterious death in 1591 led to the near destruction of the whole Russian nation, which we will cover in a few weeks when we go talk about the life of Boris Godunov and then the time of troubles. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Don't forget to visit the iTunes App Store and download the Russian Rulers app. And please visit the websites at russianrulers.podhoster.com. Become a Facebook friend at Russian Rulers History Podcast. Ask a question, make a suggestion, and please leave a comment, which really helps make these podcasts exciting for me, as I really enjoy hearing from the listeners. And as always, до свидания и спасибо большое.